Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue that if you're a well-qualified, well-credentialed, experienced, straight white male in the West today, what are the chances that you'll be able to get a job or have a job, or in your current employment, whatever, where your boss is a similarly qualified, credentialed, straight white male? Now, I don't know what the chance. Certainly, from what I've seen around the place, the chances are pretty slim. But anyway, let's just have a look at that. A former work colleague who I kind of kept in touch with. He called me up and let's catch up for a coffee, and so we did. And he'd recently been laid off, but he got quite a good payout. So he's he's not on the bones of his ass or anything, far from it. But he's out looking, and has been for a while, from what he tells me, out looking for another gig. Now he's sort of where would I? He's like the say the vice president of sales or something. Yeah, that would be kind of where he'd slot in, I figure. And so that's the sort of work he's been doing. So he's sort of the head sales guy, if you will, for a company. Now, he's worked for some pretty decent sort of brand name type firms and companies and businesses. So I would rate him as well. You probably wouldn't get a whole lot better than this guy. He's quite conscientious, little bit abrupt in his manner, but quite conscientious. So he's early to mid 50s, I suppose. Now he was quite sort of downcast that he figures he's now at the peak of his powers. He's now more experienced, more capable, more credentialed, has more chalk on the board, has more results to point to, has more accomplishments and achievements than ever before. So he figures he's at the height of his powers, and he's now more valuable as an employee, again, a VP sales or something, than he's ever been. And he figures that there should be some businesses out there that would want to employ him. I agree. Nothing he said was, I think he would be a good acquisition for any organization that really wants to, bring some bucks in the door and have a disciplined, focused, sales force. But he's struggling, not because necessarily he's getting rejected, although there is that, but his concern is that he wants to work for a serious company, and he wants to work for a serious boss, someone who has themselves earned their position by merit, through their accomplishments and achievements and credentials and so on. but he's finding his situation, in his view at least, close to impossible. He's saying everywhere he goes now, there's an affirmative action appointment. There's like a senior executive, vice president of sales that he would have to report to, and that's an affirmative action hire. It's the proverbial black lesbian and the brown guy and so on. And they're interviewing him, and so he's sort of going through the interview process and realizing that they're not even minimally qualified. They're just straight box ticking, and they've been given this job. The women, as always, being worse than the men. But there's the Indians and the Chinese, and so his boss, in every situation, his boss is going to be a minority, many of whom English is not their first language. And in some cases, he had one interview. So he was talking. He said more than one, but one interview in particular he was talking about was where his boss is Chinese, and this guy's English is so bad you can barely understand him. But he's been given the job of being the head guy for the Australian and New Zealand operations and so on. So. Why would he want to report to a guy who can't even speak English? And And he's saying they compensate for their inability to do the job by imposing, ridiculously exacting reporting standards. Every 5 minutes of every day, you've got to hand in a report about something. So he was talking about this, and he was saying just how widespread the affirmative action, race, gender quotas, and so on is. Now, I feel for the guy because I understand it, but he's at the realization where he isn't going to be able to. Well, I suppose there's anything's possible, but he isn't going to be able to get a job reporting to a qualified boss. Those qualified bosses just don't exist anymore, and those jobs don't exist anymore. Now, where he does come across the straight white guy, then it's someone who's been appointed as a buddy because they're a buddy with the BlackRock guys or the State Street guys, and they're a pure patronage appointment. They're not qualified either, and the white folks are rare enough as it is. But where they are, then they're you could virtually call them affirmative action appointments as well. So he's quite disturbed by this for the same reasons that I am, and I think many other straight white accomplished credentialed people are. But this is a brutal body blow to the economy and to our standard of living and to really everything that makes the West rich and prosperous and where young people at one time had a great future to look forward to if they were hardworking and studied hard and worked hard and were reliable and dependable. They had a great future. No more. That is well and truly gone. And this is really just the end game as it's playing out. That where there should be the best qualified, credentialed, capable people in the jobs, there are in fact affirmative action quota highs in there that are useless, absolutely fucking useless. And this is the cost of this to all of us, to our prosperity and our future prosperity of the younger people coming along. It's a brutal body blow from which I will take a lot of work to recover from. They've started that fight back in the United States, fortunately, with the administration of President Trump. But hopefully it will go far enough. But it needs to be done all over the Western world. The globalists, now they've temporarily lost full control of America, they're just doubling down in all the other Western countries. So, even tightening their control there, making sure that, only the approved candidate, they'll put any non-approved candidate in fucking prison, for Christ's sakes. Look at Marine Le Pen and all that sort of stuff. I mean, gee whiz, that's how, they're playing for keeps. Look what's going on in Britain. You criticise mass migration, they might put you in prison, for goodness sakes. So this is the playbook out there, and it's very concerning. Now, I saw this beginning. Remember, I was going I was going to America on business in the early 1980s. I mean, I was so young I couldn't even rent a car in those days. I had to find one of those places, and there was this place in the back streets of Los Angeles. I think they called it something like a rent a car place. It was some name like rent a heap of shit or something. It was something like that. And the only cars they had were really fucked up old cars that as the Americans call it, a stick shift, a manual transmission, not an automatic one. So that was the only car that I could hire, or the only place that let me hire. The big ones wouldn't touch me. I was too young. So I watched. So by the time I'd been going to America on business for more than 10 years, and I noticed it sort of, I don't know, mid 90s, maybe somewhere around there, maybe actually a little bit earlier than that. I noticed the change, whereas at one time there was only men I was dealing with when I first got to the United States. By the sort of late 80s, I guess, early 90s, around that time, I noticed that there were a lot of women starting to appear in these jobs. And I noticed straight away how less qualified they were than the men. Not all of them, by the way. Some of them I thought were capable enough, and I was okay with that. And I quite liked some of them, we got on okay. So I had no particular complaints. I just couldn't work out why any business would want to appoint unqualified people into the key roles. And this really sort of shitted me. But anyway, it got worse as time went on. So by the sort of mid to late 90s, it was so widespread that I was starting to think that, are they determined to put unqualified people in these jobs? It just had that look and feel about it, because I'd seen the transition from well qualified, very qualified, superbly qualified in some cases, into very poorly qualified, and that sort of took me by surprise. Why would any business want that? But this was the beginning of the earlier stages of the DEI affirmative action sort of nonsense. Now, I also noticed it in my own context that it was starting by the late 90s, it was starting to creep into Australia, particularly with American firms. It was like they were exporting this madness around the world and doing it with much determination, using the business sector and the projected power that came from that to engage in remote social engineering in other Western countries. So, and came back to this guy complaining that he couldn't find any qualified people to report to as his boss, and where he didn't want to report to people that couldn't even speak English and this sort of thing. And where they were affirmative action, they were artificially inserted. I mean, if you've got a vice president of sales, you don't need a senior vice president of sales, or you wouldn't think, not for the size of businesses you're talking about. So these positions have been created, artificially created, and then some affirmative action flunky inserted into it. Now, I noticed this myself in again that mid to late 90s period, and that was a time, certainly in my life, where I was getting tapped on the shoulder, frequently. Every few months or so, somebody was tapping me on the shoulder, offering me a job, or asking if I was interested in coming to work for them. And the thing that surprised me back in the day was how all of the companies that were tapping me were affirmative action companies. They were the ones that were the most aggressively embarking on the affirmative action program, and this sort of took me by surprise, because I wasn't really interested in working for them. Why would I want to work for some affirmative action stooge? So the first guy, he was the one guy I'm thinking of. He was useless. He was fucking useless. But he was the CEO, and he was like a BlackRock type appointment. Parachuted in, and he had no idea what he was doing. At least he was smart enough to know that he didn't know what he was doing, and he needed to at least have some people around him who did know. And it was on that basis he'd come to me. But the way they approach it, these guys, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is, "Oh, hi, Billy Bob. Do you want to come and work for me? Not work for the company. Or do you want to come and work for me? You can report directly to me." And you go, "Oh, okay." Now, yes, I'm not. He doesn't know this, but I'm unimpressed. You're just a BlackRock flunky. I mean, I didn't know about BlackRock in the day. You're just a big finance flunky. You shouldn't even be in this job. If you came to me for a job, I wouldn't hire you. I don't say this, obviously. I'm just thinking it. But some pretty decent money, as I later found out. But then it goes like, okay, all right, Billy Bob, look, why don't you start, say, the first Monday of next month? Why don't you start, and then we'll discuss what you're going to do. Well, whoa, Nelly, just hold on a minute. What's the job? We'll discuss it. It'll be something that's suitable to your talents. Okay. I mean, what sort of an answer is that? How much? What sort of compensation? What sort of salary are you thinking of? You'll be taken care of. What sort of performance expectations do you have? What is it you're wanting me to accomplish? We'll discuss it. Hey, what sort of a fucking job offer is that? So, I mean, it's very, very paternal and so on. But so I said, look, I've got big mortgage. I've got kids in private school. I've got car payments to make. I've got A wife that likes to spend money. I've got, I need the things that I need to know. I've got a lot of responsibilities. I'm the only one that brings the bacon home, so I need to know details here. I thank you, and I'm flattered, and I need to know details. So then the guy looks at me, and, well, is there a problem, Billy Bob? I've said you'll be taken care of. Look, don't you like me? Is that the... it's not. Now, straight away you see the bifurcation, if I can call it that. I'm someone who's got where I am by hard work, ass-busting hard work, putting in the long hours, getting the results, high level of accomplishment, and that's how I've got where I've got. This guy has accomplished nothing. Zip, nada zilch. Everything he's got through the patronage machine. So he sees the world through the lens of patronage, whereas I see the world through the lens of accomplishment, hard work, and achievements, and I built this, all that sort of stuff. So or becoming expert in a subject, and learning what I can. This is something that it's a world he doesn't understand. He couldn't even comprehend the world like that. Now I can comprehend the world he comes from. I don't think it's applicable. I don't think it's relevant. Look, I've got bills to pay. I've got kids to look after. I need to know. Now you're going to put a salary to this job. The job's going to pay, $100 or whatever it's going to pay. It's going to pay a salary. You're going to have a budget. You're going to have a head count. These are things that a company like this has those sort of parameters exist. So it's easy for you to tell me. But he wanted to project this as anything I got was a gift from him. It was a gift. It was a gift of patronage. It wasn't something I'd earned. It was a gift that he could take away at any time. I existed purely based on his whim and goodwill. So I better understand that. My accomplishments, my credentials, my achievements. Okay, it's got you to a situation where I'll pick up the phone to call you, and get you in front of me. But beyond that, it means nothing. I don't give a shit what you've accomplished. You're my flunky boy, which is how the patronage world sort of works, and how it functions. Now I found that really all the I'll just pick sort of a handful. Every tap on the shoulder I got for, hey, do you want to come work for me, was an affirmative action. So, the bigger multinational firms, particularly the American ones. And one was this one paid the best actually, and my boss would have been a woman. Now I knew this woman, and we got on well. I liked her. She liked me. We got on well. But she was, if she'd come to me for a job, for even a trainee or so, or maybe a bit more than that, but a junior job, I wouldn't have employed her. She's just not up to it. So she's been promoted sort of several rungs ahead of where she should be, just to fill a quota affirmative action box ticking. And she was keen enough. She liked me, and she was so. And the people around me in that group, they were mostly affirmative action appointments as well, and so they were quite keen, and even were sort of, we'll make changes and adjustments for you. But at the end, I turned them down. Not that I had to think about it a whole lot. Do I want to report to people who not only have been overpromoted, that I wouldn't hire? I wouldn't hire them to do the job, or that. So why would I want to report to them? Why would I want to have my boss being someone that I think is so hopeless that they're not worth employing? If I was in the situation was reversed. And the same goes, there was not one situation where I was reporting to somebody, or would have had I accepted the job, which I didn't, where I was reporting to somebody who I thought was, or what, not thought, it's not a matter of a judgment call, who hasn't been absurdly over promoted. And Um, and this I found at the time was deeply concerning, and I thought it didn't augur well for the future. If people this useless are being appointed into such key positions, then we're all going to pay the price for that. Piss poor quality management, and costs that are higher than they need to be, results and accomplishments that are less than they need to be, and so on and so forth. So I thought the cost would be, and I thought it was a passing phase. I thought, look, it's just a fad. It'll be come and gone in a few years. Little did I know that I'd be talking about it 20 plus years later on a video saying that it's actually not only continued, but it got worse over the time, as testament by this buddy of mine about how he can't find a job, according to him, can't find a job anywhere where he reports to a competent, qualified, straight white male executive. I mean, has it come to this? Yes, it has. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.